Let me see if I understand this. Miss Kennedy, this used to be your boyfriend.
Correct.
A couple of years ago, you shared an apartment together.
Correct.
Where?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Well, when did you sign the lease on the apartment?
I signed the lease January of 2020.
Who was on the lease?
Just me, Ayanna Kennedy.
You have a copy of that lease?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to take a look at it.
How you doing? Yes, Mom.
Okay. When did Mr. McKinney move in with you?
He moved in two months after.
So in March
Yes.
of 2021.
Yes.
And he was your boyfriend.
Yes.
And he lived there for how long?
I'll say like 4 or 5 months maximum.
When did he move out?
He moved out and, well, I put him out. I put him out like around late, was it September? It was like, early September. It was early September when I put him out.
September of?
September of, can't really remember. It was late August, early September. It was like, okay, because I left out of town at the 5th, so probably like around the 1st. It was really.
Listen to me.
Around the time.
Stop talking to yourself out loud. I asked you a question. The question was, when did he no longer live with you? You know, I'm cordial with the guy who seats me at my table at the restaurant.
Right.
I say, how are you? Beautiful day today. There's no smog. When you say a little more than cordial, you have to be a lot more than cordial to think about taking an apartment together.
Ayanna Kennedy claims her ex-boyfriend, Brandon McKinney, owes for damages after starting a fire in her apartment.
Listen to me. I asked you a question. The question was, when did he no longer live with you? That's a month, a day, and a year. Think to yourself, don't think out loud. You signed the lease January 2020. It was a 12-month lease.
I put him out September 2020.
There was a fire in your apartment. That's what this case is about. In October of 2020. And the fire was in your house when the defendant was there. He was there with your permission.
Correct.
So far, correct?
Correct.
And there was a fire there that destroyed part of the residence and furniture and other personality.
Correct.
Which rendered the apartment uninhabitable. You couldn't live there.
Right.
According to the terms of your lease, the landlord was supposed to provide you, when you couldn't live there, with a like premises in the same complex. Did the landlord provide you with a like residence in the same complex?
No.
Okay. Then the landlord terminated this lease. It's in here. It says if the apartment is destroyed by fire, the landlord has two options. Fire, amongst other things. He can find a like premises for you until the apartment is finished, or you can terminate the lease. You chose to terminate the lease?
No, I didn't.
Well, did you live in the apartment?
I did live. I asked him, can you give me another unit? He said he don't know about that.
Well, just a minute. So in October of 2020, did you live in the apartment after the fire?
No.
Where did you live?
I went home with my mother.
Okay. Did you pay rent in October?
I did.
Did you pay rent in November?
Yes, I had finished out my lease.
You finished out your lease by paying your rent and didn't live there. Show me. Show me that you paid your rent.
Well, I don't have that here.
Well, that's what you're here for. That's what you're here for. There was a fire in the apartment. You're not a fire marshal, are you? No. Okay. So you're here because they kept your security on your apartment, but your lease specifically provides that either the lease will terminate or the landlord has to find you another apartment. And you say you paid rent even though you were living with your mother, which I don't believe. So, had not lived there. So you want your security deposit back from him. They kept your security deposit and you claimed that he was the reason for the fire.
Which is true.
Well, I don't know if that's true, and you can't prove that's true. You were out of town. He says it was a faulty electrical wire.
He was responsible for the fire. It's in the report. They said someone left the eyelet on the stove. He was the only one there. The stove didn't come on by itself.
I don't know.
He was there. He admitted to it. He said he was cooking something and he ran out the house and forgot the stove was on.
And?
The whole apartment was burnt up to a
And?
crisp.
And?
The landlord knows that he did it.
I don't know what the landlord does. I don't even know if he wasn't living there. He says after this whole thing happened, he took an apartment. You were supposed to move in with him. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
And where was that apartment that she was supposed to move into?
My apartment that I live currently.
Do you remember when she came home after the fire?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you see her after she came home?
Yes, ma'am.
After the fire?
Yes.
Okay. Where did you see her?
At the apartment.
At the apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to live in the apartment?
I actually stayed there.
You were staying there after the fire?
Yes, ma'am. Where?
Just
Yes, ma'am.
answer my questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. So there was a fire, there was a lot of damage, but you slept there.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you sleep there for more than one night?
Yes, ma'am.
How long did you sleep there?
I slept there about a week.
When did she come home?
The end of that week.
Okay. What happened when she came home?
When she came home, she began to examine for damages, and of course, her family came over. They proceeded to repair the damages. Like she had couches, clothes, and things of that nature. So they took those out and got those refurbished.
And?
And then after that, she moved in with her parents. I moved in with my child's mother.
So you never stayed in the apartment with her together?
Not after October.
Not after October?
No, ma'am.
So what was this baloney that you wrote here in your answer that you took an apartment that she was supposed to move in with you?
That's now.
Oh, that's now?
Yes, ma'am. October, when the fire happened, she went to her mother's house. I went to my child's mother's house.
See, I have nowhere to stay.
Okay, and then what happened with your child's mother?
My child's mother, me and her, we ended up falling out. So I ended up living with my grandmother while she was still living with her parents.
And then?
Then I proceeded to get an apartment for us to not have to.
So let me ask you this question, Mr. McKinney. Since the fire, have you had, since the fire,
Yes.
since you were supposed to get an apartment together, recently,
Right.
I assume that you got back together at some point?
Friends, cordial, of course, a little more than cordial.
Well, you know, I'm cordial with the guy who seats me at my table,
Right.
number 35 at the restaurant.
Right.
I'm cordial, I say. How are you? Beautiful day today. There's no smog here. It's lovely to be out. When you say a little more than cordial, Mr. McKinney, you have to be a lot more than cordial to think about taking an apartment together.
For sure.
For sure.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, my question is, were you a little more cordial with Miss Kennedy at your grandmother's house or at her parents' house?
At my grandmother's house, for sure.
Oh, for sure.
I apologize.
Was your grandmother home? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you stand up for a moment, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Your last name is?
Lee.
Miss Lee.
Yes.
Grandson?
Yes.
You like him?
Love him.
Oh, he's cute. He's cute. Oh, that's cute. Did you ever see Miss Kennedy in your house within the last year?
Yes.
How often?
Not that often, but yeah, she came and visit
She came to visit who?
my grandson.
Did she ever stay over?
Yes.
Your case is dismissed, Miss Kennedy. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Court is adjourned.
The judge is dead wrong.
By the time I came back, it was just flames, you know?
He burned down my apartment. I was gone out of town.
No, I never promised her anything.
The universe gonna get him.
I am for sure that I've never been slightly more than cordial with anyone in your house, and I've lived with you on and off for years. So I found that very funny.
It was funny, and I believe you.
Yeah, and I think that that grandmother was a sweet soul, and she loves him because it's her grandson, but you know, that line has got to be somewhere. He'll find it.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Bryant, the defendant is your daughter, and it is your claim that she owes the balance of a loan for school.
Yes.
So I'm going to start with you, Ms. Holmes. How old are you?
I'm 22 years old.
And I gather from your answer that your parents were separated or divorced, and you lived with your father
Yes, Your Honor.
until you were how old?
22.
When did you start to live just with your father? How old were you?
I was about 13, 14.
So you lived with him for almost a decade.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you in touch with your mother?
It was on and off for 3 years.
Okay, so you were on and off with your mom.
Yes, Your
But
Honor.
then there came a time when you had some sort of kerfuffle with your father.
Yes, Your Honor.
When was that?
That was March 16th, the cusp of midnight.
March 16th of this year.
Yes, ma'am.
You called your mom and asked if you could stay with her for a while.
Yes, Your Honor.
And that was on the 16th of March.
Yes, Your Honor.
What school were you going to then?
I was not in school at the time.
What were you doing?
I was working. I was at Sally Beauty Holdings for about a year and a month.
What kind of work was that?
It was retail, customer service.
And you were a customer service person.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was until you left your father's house?
Yes, ma'am. I left April 3rd, 2021.
Prior to working there, were you in school?
Yes, ma'am.
What school?
I was at, from 2017 to 2019, I was at Xavier University of Louisiana, and then I transferred to Georgia State University in that fall 2019.
Were you a full-time student?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you graduate from there?
No, ma'am, I did not.
In what year did you stop going to school?
I stopped going to school 2019 after my fall semester because of financial reasons.
And is that when you went to work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When you moved in with your mother, according to what I read, your mother wanted you to get back into school and you wanted to get back into school.
Yes, Your Honor.
But you owed the school some money.
Yes, ma'am, for my transcripts. I had holds, and I owed a balance of...
You owed a $5,000 balance.
Yes, ma'am.
And according to what I read, you said you had saved up about $1,200.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then it becomes sort of dicey. Your mother says that she paid the tuition and there were certain conditions that you stay in school. She's claiming that the balance that's owed to her is $3,800. Is that right?
Yes.
Your mother says that one of the problems is that somehow you got a check from the government for about $20,000.
Yes, Your Honor.
For what?
I run a small business on Etsy. It's called Crystallized Co. I sell crystals,
Just a
gemstones, and minerals.
We didn't discuss that when I asked you what you did. What you said was that you worked for this company for a year and a half and that you were going to school. Now I want you to tell me what kind of program you applied for that got you $20,000. And we're going to go through it very carefully.
Okay.
Okay? What program?
I did the PPP loan for small business for the 2021.
That's payroll protection so that you could pay employees.
Yes.
How many employees and what are their names?
I have 2. It's me. I have my
No,
boyfriend.
that's you.
Okay.
That's you. You have you. And you have your boyfriend.
Yes. His name is
Just
William.
a second. Who else?
And then I will have my...
Slowly make sure, because I'm going to check on all this.
Okay.
Go ahead. You and your boyfriend.
I would just say me and him then. Just us 2.
So you applied for employees. How many employees did you tell the United States government that you employed, that you needed protection for?
2.
And you named them. Do you have a copy of that
No, ma'am, I do not.
application? And so they sent you $20,000 for you and your boyfriend. What's his name, by the way?
William,
Does he go to school?
he has graduated already.
What kind of work does he do?
He worked for Aflac.
An insurance company.
Yes, ma'am.
Until when?
Until recently around, what's today, August, I want to say the 18th, he resigned.
You mean
Of this
just
year.
now?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date did you get this $20,000?
I received it June 4th, I believe.
Did you put it in a bank?
Yes, ma'am.
And whose name is the bank account?
Mine.
Personal.
Yes.
Do you have a company, an incorporated company anywhere?
No, ma'am.
When you applied for this payroll protection program from the government, did you say you had a company?
Yes, I did.
And what was the name of the company that you say that you had?
Crystallized Co.
Crystallized Co. CO is company?
Yes, company, yes.
Company.
Yes.
Well, don't you know that you have to have a company incorporated? You need to pay certain fees to the state? You didn't do any of that. Are you getting the clue that what you did was perpetrating a fraud, getting money from the government for a fake company? It's not designed for a girl and her boyfriend.
LaShonda Bryant says her 22-year-old daughter, Jasmine Holmes, owes for the cost of school. Jasmine is countersuing for emotional distress and the loss of her belongings.
Okay, Ms. Holmes, are you realizing now that what you did was fraudulent? Are you getting the clue that what you did was perpetrating a fraud, getting money from the government for a fake company that didn't exist, with you and your boyfriend, who never filed a tax return for Crystal Co., never filed to incorporate Crystal Co.? The IRS just wrote you a check for $20,000. Don't you realize that?
No, Your Honor. I was under the impression that the PPP loan was to help small businesses.
You don't have a small business.
Yes, I do.
No, you don't have a small business unless it's a company, madam. And you
It's
and your
not
boyfriend are
registered
not a small company because you worked for Aflac until August 18th.
I do have a small business.
It's not
It's just not
designed.
incorporated.
Listen to me. It's not designed for a girl and her boyfriend. It's designed for people who have a business, a legitimate business in which they have employees who pay taxes. And it was designed for the pandemic so that companies that were laying off employees could continue to pay them their wages. Don't you understand that? It's a lot of baloney.
Okay.
I've been in this business a long time. I know baloney. I know when it's raining outside or someone is peeing on my leg. Unfortunately, the government doesn't seem to have that sense. Your mother paid off your school loan. Are you going to school?
Yes, ma'am. I am fully enrolled. I'm a full-time student. I have 15 credits.
Now.
Yes, ma'am.
Is she?
I don't know.
I have evidence
talk
that I
to
am.
her.
Just a second.
She decided she didn't want to talk to me anymore.
I would like to see that she's enrolled as a full-time student. When did you start to take classes?
August 16th, 2021.
Did you take out any student loans?
No, ma'am. I did my application through FAFSA. Unfortunately, it was rejected, but I do have money saved to pay for my college.
Is that from the PPP program?
That is for from savings that I saved
That-
from my 2 jobs that I have now.
Where are you living?
I live with my sister in Atlanta, Georgia.
And where does the boyfriend live?
He lives in Florida.
Did you tell your daughter you would cover her tuition if she were in school? What she owed in order to get back into school?
Yeah.
You told her that? Mm-hmm. She's in school. She's in school.
Well,
You were annoyed that she got all this money and didn't pay her own tuition. But that's what happened. I mean, I assume, because you wrote about it in your complaint. So, I mean, I couldn't guess at something like this. You wrote about it in your complaint. So I assume when she got this check for $20,000 and didn't give you back the money that you had given her, that you were annoyed.
I was, but when she came back from her boyfriend visit, I picked her up from the station and she had an attitude.
Just a second. Was this before or after she got the money in June?
It was before.
That's not accurate at all.
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
When she went to visit with her boyfriend, had she already received the $20,000 check?
No.
No. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When she came back, you said she had attitude. You had an argument. What month was that? In June?
It was June.
June what?
June 3rd through the 6th, I went on a small vacation to visit my boyfriend in Florida.
Okay. And what date did you move out of your mother's house?
June 7th, when I got back. That was the after the day of the dispute I had with my mother in the car.
And on what date did you receive this check?
June 4th. I was already on the trip, and
So the money went right into your bank.
yes, ma'am.
Did you tell your mother about it?
My sister told her before I could, and my mother texted me like, "Are you not going to give me my money?" And I said, "I will send it to you now." Because the original agreement for my tuition, she asked me if I had anything to contribute from the job that I was working at Sally's.
Well, what happened was they wouldn't send your transcripts to the new school unless you paid off the $5,000 that you owed the old school. So you had to pay that back. You had $1,200. Your mother paid the other $38.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and that happened before. And then your sister, with whom you confided that you had gotten this windfall from the government, shared that information with your mother.
Yes, Your Honor.
And then when your mother picked you up from the airport, she said to you, I assume, you argued about this money.
No, actually, no, Your Honor. So the 6th that I got back, it was 4:15 in the morning. My mother was complaining that I wasn't doing my job or doing enough for my school. She was saying that I didn't apply myself. She was saying that I didn't take the necessary steps to get accepted into Fort Valley University. And I told her that everything that I did over my break with my boyfriend, that I had handled the situation. That June 7th, she sent me a text. Here's the text right here if you would like to see the evidence.
Sure. Sure.
She sent me a text saying what's on that paper right there. And I replied with what's actually right there as well.
Now, I believe that you said that you would pay this tuition, this $3,800 for her. If she was in school, she's in school, so you don't get your $3,800 back. You're counterclaiming, which is ridiculous. You say your mother wasn't a good mother, and she was emotionally abusive.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, well, some mothers are less perfect than others.
Yes, Your Honor.
The case is dismissed, madam. So is your counterclaim. We're finished here.
Court is adjourned.
I'm glad that she's actually in school.
I'm definitely going to graduate. There's no ifs or maybes or buts. I'm definitely graduating.
We had a love-hate relationship. She stopped talking to me in February of 2017.
Like Judge Judy said, that some mothers aren't fit. I believe she's one of them.
I hope she graduates and have a future of, you know, maybe we probably can talk, but hey.
I don't necessarily have any hard feelings against my mother. Just know that she hurt me and that I'm open to anything.
Sarah, if my recollection is correct, this is either the second or the third case that we've done that involved abuse of the payroll protection program. It always strikes me that if people spent as much time working towards a positive, productive goal as they spent in trying to circumvent the rules, that they would have much more satisfying lives. And this country probably wouldn't be in the kind of debt circumstance it's in. Anyway, I think that the whole thing is terrible.
Yeah.
I don't know what to say.
Especially being from New York City and seeing a lot of small businesses, restaurants, places I used to frequent a lot with good employees, hardworking people that have applied and qualify for these types of loans. And then to see some of the people come through here, like we've seen, just abusing the system and taking those opportunities and that money from people that could really benefit
from.
So
True.
It's unfortunate.
Are you having a family dispute? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 1135B, Reed versus Ramsey.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kevin,
Yes.
what is the name of this witness?
Eva Trigger.
Would you put her outside, please? She has the next case. If anything, she's maybe called as a witness in this case, but she has nothing to do with this case.
Please follow me.
The bare facts of this case are relatively simple. Ms. Reed, you were a tenant of the defendants from 2017 until this year.
Yes.
And you were renting a rather large piece of property from him. How many acres, sir?
40 acres, Your Honor.
You had animals.
No, I had no animals.
You had no animals?
No, I had pets, cats and dogs.
How many dogs?
One dog.
How many cats?
There were several cats that were outside cats that I fed, but I had 2 indoor cats.
How many several outdoor cats?
I'd say there was 3 mother cats and I don't know how many baby cats.
About 17 or 18 cats, Your Honor.
Okay, and one dog?
One dog.
You rented that property, you rented the main house on the property.
Correct.
And the rent, according to what I read, was about $950 a month.
Yes, at first.
And you started your tenancy in what month, Miss Reed, in 2017?
February 2017.
Did you have a written lease?
No, oral.
Fine. This is what the case is about. Mr. Ramsey, at some point, wanted you no longer as a tenant. and he retained a lawyer
Yes, Your Honor.
in order to evict you.
Correct.
And I see that Mr. Ramsey has no papers in front of him.
No, I don't, Your Honor.
Well, why would that be, Mr. Ramsey?
Because Miss Reed moved out 3 months ago. I thought it was all over with.
Just a second.
Okay.
Mr. Ramsey, I'm not going to be happy with your answer. I'm going to let you know right now, I'm not going to be happy with your answer unless Miss Reed has the paperwork to show me, and she might. Now, Miss Reed had paid her rent regularly during her tenancy, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you wanted her out in what month and year
February.
of this year?
Yes.
And you live in the state of California?
Yes.
And Miss Reed is suing you for fraudulently evicting her in 2021. And she's suing you for $5,000, which is the maximum she can sue you for fraudulently evicting her from her premises. Your response is that you hired an attorney and an eviction company. You hired professionals
Yes.
to evict her.
Yes.
And they did.
Yes.
And therefore, it was a perfectly legal eviction.
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, there are very limited bases on which you can evict a tenant, especially during COVID.
Okay.
In California, not even for non-payment of rent,
Right.
which you don't even allege here, because she did, in fact,
Yes.
pay her rent. So the only basis in California upon which you can rely in evicting a tenant is if you or a close relative intend to move back into the property, or if you intend and do, in fact, sell the property. I assume, sir, that you still own the property.
Yes, Your Honor.
So I would like you to tell me, and then, of course, Ms. Reed is going to have to show me the affidavit, because you clearly, when you evict someone, you have to file an affidavit. That's why I'm curious why you have no paperwork. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because that's very easy. If you hired an eviction company, they have copies of it.
Right.
And the lawyer, he
Sure.
certainly have copies of it, Mr. Ramsey.
Yes.
So that if you threw away yours, you thought it was all over, all you had to do is say, I need copies of my papers to bring to the court because she's suing me now.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Sure.
You want to explain to me why you didn't do that?
Well, I thought it was all over with.
Well, yeah, I know you thought it was all over, but you're standing here now.
Yeah.
Now you're standing here. And so now you have to
in-
tell me you're an intelligent man.
In the county,
You-
in Stanislaus County, they said you were allowed to evict even,
You can't tell me what the county said to you. The county doesn't speak.
my attorney.
Just a second. You can't tell me what your attorney told you because that's hearsay.
Okay.
What you can do is to bring me the affidavit that you had to sign in order to get a court to evict.
Your Honor, we didn't actually go to court. We settled outside of court.
Oh, just a second. So let's go back.
Okay?
Because you do understand
Yes.
that if, in fact, you filed a document with the court on which the court relied that you intended to move back into the premises, which was the basis for your eviction of her, then that was a fraudulent eviction because you're not living there now, right?
No.
Right.
I could
But
answer
if
that
what
question.
you're saying to me is that you settled the matter with the plaintiff, that I'm going to hear in a minute. So let me see, Ms. Reed, the eviction notice that you received together with his affidavit as to why you were being evicted.
This is the notice, and I have court documentation showing.
Well, let me see the notice. Let me see what it says. Oh, very easy. I'd like you to show this to Mr. Ramsey because clearly Mr. Ramsey falsely signed a document that he intended to move into the property. Now,
Thank you.
that's the document that you signed.
Sure.
One of the documents. I'll take it back now, Kevin. So that document that you filed was in fact fraudulent because you were not moving into the property and you don't live on the property now.
I have an answer.
Go ahead.
I was going to move into the property.
I don't care. I'm not moving into your mind.
No, the house was so wrecked, I couldn't move into it.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Ramsey,
Yes, ma'am.
I know that slick people will say, well, if you had to, you say to the court, it was my intention to move into the property, but because of blah, 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 I couldn't move into the property, but it was in fact my intention. This face doesn't buy it. Do you understand? However, Miss Reed, you could have fought this eviction, but Mr. Ramsey says that you settled the matter with him. Miss Reed,
Yes.
did you go to housing court?
I don't believe it was housing court. I went to court.
You went,
I fought the eviction through court.
good. May I see her papers? And you had a lawyer.
I did not. Well, I was
Yes, you did.
I was represented by California Rural Legal Assistance.
Oh, fine, that's fine, but you were represented.
Yes.
That's a yes. When you went to court, was there a trial?
I believe there was not a trial. I think it was a stipulation before trial.
If there's a stipulation before trial, that means that either you're still there or you agreed to move and he paid you some money.
Okay.
I've been doing this business for 50 years, so please, let us not.
I'm trying to tell you, I went to trial, but I did not have representation, and I did move.
Listen,
I did move.
I asked you a simple question.
Okay.
Was there a settlement where Mr. Ramsey paid you money?
He paid me no money.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, go ahead.
She had an additional 3 months after the court. I let her stay because she didn't have any place to go and this and that.
So is what you're saying to me that the stipulation was when you finally went to court in what month?
June?
June of this year?
Yes.
Is that correct, Ms. Reed?
The paper was filed June. We went to court in August.
August of 2021?
Yes.
Was there a stipulation filed that you, in settlement of this case, that you were going to be able to reside for another 3 months on the property?
3 weeks is what the stipulation showed me.
Oh, I'd like to see it.
This is the stipulation.
May I see it, please? Okay, Mr. Ramsey, this is your problem, sir. This is filed July 21st, and it says, because of what you swore to, that you were moving into the premises. That's the reason for the eviction. That based on this, the rental agreement is canceled. A writ of possession will issue immediately. That means you're entitled to possession immediately because of this fraud. And she has until August 9th, which is a couple of weeks away, not 3 months.
Your Honor, I let her stay longer than the
I don't
date.
care.
Okay.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Sure.
And judgment will be entered now. And that was by the judicial officer, Jared. Well, if Jared knew that what your attorney filed was a fraudulent document, and it was based upon that fraudulent document that this stipulation was entered, the judicial officer would be furious, sir.
Could I speak, Your Honor?
Absolutely.
Okay. I initially rented the property to Joni Reed and her son. She had 6 more people move in trailers and motorhomes outside the property in trucks. I told her she couldn't do that. My insurance wouldn't cover it. Isn't that?
Hold on.
And she would never do anything about it.
Just a second. So is what you're telling me, sir?
No, that's not why I evicted her, though.
Okay. Tell me why you evicted her.
Well, at the time when I evicted her, I have no place to live. I had to move into the house. I lost my wife in COVID, and I just had no place to live.
Where are you living, sir, now?
I live in San Jose.
What kind of premises?
I have a room with a friend.
Mr. Ramsey.
Yes, Your Honor.
We're not on the same page, sir. Where did you live with your wife?
In my home in San Jose.
What's the address of your home in San Jose?
1374 San
Is
Jose.
that an owned property or a rental property?
It's an owned property.
An owned?
Yes, but I don't own it anymore.
Just a second. Who is the current owner of the property?
I own it half with my ex-wife, and my son lives there.
Mr. Ramsey.
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't know how to say this to you, sir, but you may be able to get over with some people with that baloney. You are not getting over with me.
I'm not trying to get over.
Yeah, you would not get over with me. I would have sympathy with you.
I'm not trying to get over.
Just a second. I don't know where I was living. I was living with friends. I lost my house, but I still own my house. But my son lives there.
Yeah.
Mr. Ramsey.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Ramsey.
Sure.
I don't know whether you think because I'm a woman judge, I'm stupid, or because I'm old, I'm stupid.
No.
I don't know what you think. It's very easy, sir. If you came and said to me, she had tons of people living there, she brought in people in RVs, it's 40 acres, but that's not why I had her evicted, because we're going to go back to this fraudulent document.
No, I needed the house to live in,
Well, you're not living there now.
No, of course not. It's uninhabitable.
Okay, wait until we get to the next case. Sir, you've had 8 months to restructure the house, to do whatever you wanted with the house. Yeah, meanwhile, you live in San Jose. If I looked at the court...
It's 100 miles away.
Listen to me, sir.
Sure.
If I looked at the documents that you filed when you brought your case to me, where the people that reached out to you, it would be at the home that you co-own in San Jose. Mr. Ramsey,
Yeah, I know.
Mr. Ramsey, look at me, sir.
Okay.
You're done.
No, Your Honor.
Done.
I don't
Hard
I
boiled.
don't live at the house in San Jose.
Just a second. That's where it would say you live. And I tell you what.
Your Honor, I do not live at the house in San Jose. I don't live there.
Tell me your address, sir.
1374 San Jose. But I don't live there.
Tell me where you live. That was my question. Did I ask him that?
You did.
Tell me where you live.
160 San Jose.
And who lives there, sir?
My brother and his son.
Is your name on the mailbox?
Ramsey, yes.
Ah!
No, it's because it's my brother's house.
Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $5,000 as requested, which is the maximum. You committed fraud on the court,
No,
Mr.
no, I
Ramsey.
didn't,
I'm not
Your Honor.
happy about that.
I did
Sit
not.
down while we call the next case, because you're also the defendant.
Yeah.
Perfect. You know, you're too slick, Mr. Ramsey.
Oh, gosh.
You have to be orderly and honest.
I'm honest, Your Honor.
Yeah, well,
Honest. I'm honest. That's
what?
Eva Traeger is suing her former landlord, Al Ramsey, for remodeling services done to his property.
Stand up, Mr. Ramsey. Leave that there. Here. First, let's call the case. I
Raise your
have the
hand,
case
please.
here. This is Traeger versus Ramsey. He's been sworn. Just swear her.
Swear to tell the truth in these matters today?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is your case against Mr. Ramsey.
Yes, Your Honor.
You knew Mr. Ramsey.
Yes.
How did you know him?
I rented from him 8 years ago.
All 40 acres.
Yes.
For how long did you rent from him 8 years ago?
9 months.
How many horses do you have?
Today, 6
What other animals do you have?
dogs.
How many?
6.
There came a time when Miss Reed moved out of the house, sometime in August. And somehow you got in touch with, or he got in touch with you. How did that happen?
We talked at the beginning of the year, like
Beginning of
this year.
January, February, when?
It was around April.
Okay. You talked in April. On the phone or in person?
Phone.
All right, well, tell me about the conversation.
He said that he had a tenant moving out, that it was going through eviction and it was taking longer. It was supposed to be sooner than it turned out to be, so we just kept in contact with text message and by cell phone calls.
He said it took longer than he expected it.
He just said that she's not out yet, I'm going to evict her. Gave her a notice and they had to go back to court.
And what was the arrangement that you had with him?
At that time, I had went down to the property, spoke with him. We, just kicked around some ideas, and I came up with a number because we talked about rent. I said, well, what's she paying? He told me $1,100, and I said, okay, well, the house is probably going to need work. And so we came up with the idea that I would give him $12,000 for the year, and I would help him with the remodel of the house or whatever needed done. I would add my 2 cents to help get it done. And I said,
So is what you're saying that you came up with an arrangement where you would give him $12,000 up front, or $12,000?
yes, for the year.
That you would give him $12,000 in advance?
Well, actually, when I moved in, because I already made it firm that I wouldn't move there whenever she was living there, because he wanted me to come and stay in my trailer, and I didn't want to do that.
Okay, so you said to him, we'll make a formal lease.
Yeah.
When did you move into the property?
I moved my horses the night of August 9th.
So when she left?
She was still there, actually.
That was her last day. She had to be out by court order.
By court order, yes.
So when you had your discussion with him, the discussion was that you were going to give him $12,000 for rent.
Yes.
And move your horses in.
Yes.
And you would do whatever work in the house that had to be done.
With him.
With him.
Yes.
Okay. So it was your intention in his statement that he was going to lease this house to you for a year.
Yes.
For $12,000 for the year. Once the house got all readied up, he was going to help you get it readied up. You were going to get it readied up. And you moved the horses in the same night so that the horses had a place to stay. And your lawsuit is not for illegally evicting you because you were never his tenant.
No.
Because you never paid him any money.
Correct.
Your lawsuit against the defendant is more interesting. You say that you did contracting work on the house, and then he told you to leave.
Yes.
So you want to be paid for the work you did on the house.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the horses moved in on August 9th. When did you move in? On the property. I don't care if it was in an RV or a tent or anything else. When did you start to stay there?
August 10th, I moved my stuff. My trailers, trucks. I couldn't unpack them because we didn't have a house to put them into. So it was
Second,
August
so you
10th.
moved your trailer onto the property.
Yes.
Well, then you're there. August 10th, the day after you moved horses on the property. And on what date did you leave?
September 22nd.
Okay. And between August 10th and September 22nd, your horses were there.
Yes.
How many horses?
11.
Were they all yours or were you boarding them?
Mine.
What kind of work do you do?
Pony parties.
Were you working between August and September?
No. Actually, I had 2 pony parties between that.
Well, then don't say no. You say, yes, I had a
Yes.
pony party. I had 2. So you continued to run your business.
Yes.
Did you pay the defendant any rent for the horses?
No.
So you continued to do your business, but paid him no rent. Did you, in fact, live on his premises?
Yes.
Did you, in fact, pay him any rent on his premises?
No.
So for that month and a half, you had free board for your horses and free place to live for yourself. That'd be fair?
Yes.
Now, this is what your lawsuit is about, and I do not have, I don't think, a counterclaim. No. So you're going to tell me, Ms. Traeger, what you think he owes you money for.
The work I did on his house, the remodeling and the demolition of the house, and I offered to give him the money, the $12,000 up front, and he wouldn't accept it.
I don't care what you offered. You're suing him for work you did in the house.
Yes.
Now, I'd like you to tell me how much you spent on materials for the work that you did on the house, that you have receipts for.
$1,609.
He give you the money for that?
No.
Your Honor, I have it on Venmo on my phone. Did I give her the money for that?
Just a second. I'd like to see that. And I'd like to see his account.
Right there. That's one of them. That's the other.
Sarah, add these numbers up for me, would you please?
Sure. I have a calculator, Your Honor.
Slide it, that's one of them.
So you gave her $300.
I don't know what the amount was, Your Honor.
He's going to show you.
Yes.
Okay. I see the things from Home Depot. Ms. Traeger, what did you buy at Habitat for Humanity?
We bought flooring, paint.
Who's we?
Al went with me.
I paid
Just
that.
a second. If he went with you, then he paid.
I paid
Oh,
it.
no, that was a separate. That was
If
a
he
separate.
went with you, then he
I paid
paid.
it, Your Honor.
No, that was he bought flooring there one time we went there, and the other times I went there, I had to get supplies. I got flooring and I got paint. And
How
I
many
got-
times did you go with her to Habitat?
Just one time, Your Honor, I bought the flooring.
How much was the flooring?
$300-400.
It's not looking good for you. You understand that? If you would have said that you could evict her for being a nuisance, put it in here. That's the basis for your eviction.
At the time, I needed the house to live in.
No, that's baloney.
No, it's not baloney. No, it's not. And I opened the door and I couldn't believe what I seen.
Yeah, that's such baloney.
Okay.
Eva Traeger claims her former landlord, Al Ramsey, owes for remodeling services she did to his property.
Your Honor,
It's not looking good for you.
Your Honor,
You understand that?
I also gave her workers' money, but I know that doesn't. I shouldn't have got.
No,
a
no,
receipt.
no, no, no. I just want to see where she gets $5,000 from. She's living rent-free on your property with 11 horses and doing business there.
No, I didn't do business there.
Of course you did. You kept your horses there.
Oh,
And she ate all my alfalfa.
Just a second. May have done that too. The horses have to eat.
What it was my
Mr. Ramsey,
alfalfa.
Mr. Ramsey, I told her it's not going well for her. Right now, you're living rent-free. You're boarding 11 horses free. You're continuing to do your business. I wasn't sure about all these little tiny receipts, but some of them, the only big one is from Habitat for Humanity, and that one, which you gave me as something that you paid for, you didn't. He did.
no, I paid. He has his own receipt.
No.
That was mine.
No, I don't believe that.
So these all added come to $1,354.44.
Okay, thank you. And I have from Mr. Ramsey a payment to you in the amount of $300. So that leaves $1,000 that you spent in materials for which you say you were not compensated, right?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Ramsey,
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't care about her labor. or her workers, because you said you paid the workers, and she has no proof to the contrary.
He hasn't paid. I have it right here.
Hasn't paid what?
He hasn't paid the laborers.
Oh, they should sue him. Did you pay the laborers?
Yes, Your Honor.
How much?
$300 or $400. I don't know. It was a couple different guys, and
This is
all the work
slippery,
they did, it was
Mr.
like the little rascals did it. I had to redo everything.
You know, you're too slick, Mr. Ramsey.
Oh, gosh.
Really, you have to be orderly and honest.
I'm honest, Your Honor.
Yeah, well,
Honest. I'm honest. That's.
that's what?
If I could really tell you, I mean, you know, is it legal for her to bring motorhomes on my ranch and,
No.
and have people live in them? And stuff?
Absolutely not.
And then I told her to do something about it. She doesn't do anything about it.
Just a second. It's absolutely not, Mr. Ramsey.
Okay. Then what do you do?
It's absolutely not. The answer is, I don't know what you do.
I mean, you're a judge. Can't you tell me what you would do?
Mr. Ramsey, the problem with everyone who chooses to be a landlord, especially now,
Yes.
is that they're in a vice. They're told they can't evict anybody, and some people, well, the moratorium is over, but there was a moratorium. But during COVID, you couldn't evict her because she was a nuisance.
That's not true in
Then-
Stanislaus County.
Well,
That's not.
then you should have alleged it in your paper, Mr. Ramsey. Your paper, try to use God's 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen, if you would have said, not in Stanislaus County, that you could evict her for being a nuisance, put it in here. That's the basis for your eviction.
At the time, I needed the house to live in. Then
No, that's baloney.
No, it's not baloney.
That's-
no, it's
oh,
not.
that's-
And I opened the door and I couldn't believe what I seen.
Yeah, that's such baloney.
Okay.
Yeah, that's baloney, Mr. Ramsey, and I don't believe you. So far, you have $1,000 worth of material that you're entitled to, madam, period. You lived there for 6 weeks with your 11 horses and paid nothing. So consider this $1,000 a gift. Do you understand?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000.
Court is adjourned.
It was pretty bad.
The place was deplorable. When I moved in, I maintained it the whole time I lived there.
The house is full of cockroaches.
The roaches you can't get rid of, they come from up underneath the house because we live next to a dairy.
Full of mice. I couldn't even go in there. I didn't want anything to do with the house.
The mice are something you have to live with on a farm, but the house was beautiful when I left it. I have photographs. It was perfectly clean. You could have moved into it.
It's still vacant, just being worked on.
He lies about everything he says. He said that he was going to move into the house. He had her move in. He was already moving trailers in before she even left again.
Oh, gosh. No. They never even looked at why I wanted the house back.
He just continues with lies down the road, all the way.
To live in.
I redid his whole house for nothing
No, I didn't like the work. Just, I had to redo everything.
because I was supposed to live in the house and he wasn't doing the work.
No, I just said it's not going to work out. And she just left.
And I was living nowhere.
Don't do it.
You know, I see cases like this and I think about balance. And the law has displayed a sympathy for those people who, by virtue of COVID, couldn't work. And despite stimulus, were still not paying rent because they needed money for other things. I have a great deal of sympathy for landlords because that's their business. It's like bringing somebody in, Sarah. It's like saying, Sarah, you're going to be the law clerk, but we're not going to pay you because it's COVID. Your reaction to that would be?
It's a tough spot to put both parties in. I can sympathize with both sides. I just think that COVID had an impact on every business, you know, on rent, on custody, on evictions, everything. So I think that both sides are in a tough spot, but you still have to act accordingly. And you can't lie to the court. You can't submit fraudulent papers just because you're in a tough spot along with everybody else. Doesn't give you the right to then do the wrong thing.
Perpetrate a fraud on the court. That was his problem. Isn't it interesting that a whole industry, there were eviction practitioners. And it's so interesting that these eviction practitioners, who actually have to be scrutinized, will say to somebody like this man, who says she's a nuisance. She moved other people onto the property, and which I probably believe is true, because it's 40 acres. And she'll say to a friend, you know, you could move in your RV there and stay there. So this place was a mess. But he couldn't evict her.
For that reason.
For that reason. At all. So resorted to the least difficult allegation to prove, and the one that is foolproof.
And a loophole.
And a loophole. Yeah, and a loophole. So for that, you can't reward him. So he got punished. But this lady had sort of free place to live for a month and a half along with her 11 horses and 6 dogs. So her material she was entitled to, but for nothing else. I think we did a good job.
Yeah, I agree.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 1127, McBride Boyle versus Lightman.
Thank you. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Lightman. That's usually not a good thing.
Okay. Thank
You understand that? Okay. So I'm not going to. Don't open your papers. You own a company, and you lease out antique or old cable cars as one part of your company that people use for events. So far, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
How long have you had that company?
I've been in this business since 2004.
What's the name of your company?
The name of the company is Events West, Inc.,
And where is it located?
San Francisco, California.
These two folks were getting married.
No, that's my dad.
Where's your husband?
At home with our daughter.
Oh, okay. When were you getting married?
June 22nd, 2019.
Father paying for the wedding?
Yes.
Oh, that's why you're here. First marriage?
Yes.
You have siblings?
Yeah, an older brother.
So this was his only daughter that he was paying for the wedding for?
Yeah.
How many people were you having?
250.
You've been saving a long time for this wedding.
Very long.
Very long.
She's been planning this wedding since she was 12 years old.
So, Mr. Lightman, as far as planning their wedding, one of the things that they wanted as a kickoff was to take their wedding party from one location to another in one of your cable cars.
They had that and another vehicle, yes, Your Honor.
And that wedding was supposed to take place when?
The ceremony or the date or the time?
Both.
Well, it was on June 22nd, 2019, and the time frame was from 12:30 to 5 p.m. for the cable car and from 12:30 to 4:30 p.m. for the limo bus or land yacht.
Okay. May I see the contract that you signed? Did you prepare this contract?
An employee prepared this contract.
Your company prepared the contract.
That is correct.
Yeah, you got to check the English here.
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
draw
you
your
better
attention.
check some of the English here. It's not English.
The last sentence of the 6th clause and the full 8th clause, I think, are relevant in this matter.
I read what's relevant, sir. I read what you believe is relevant to this. So let's cut to the chase. Your cable car, you have a picture of it? Can I see it? Oh, that's an adorable way to travel. You're supposed to travel starting at 12:30, take pictures on it.
It was supposed to take the bridal party to the church. That's the reason we had two vehicles, because I wasn't seeing my husband before the wedding.
Not right before.
Yeah.
So this is what was supposed to show up.
That did show up. That's it, broken down in front of the hotel. The bridal party snapped some pictures getting on it before they realized it didn't start.
So this is what happened. You sent this.
So the driver...
Just a second. Don't tell me the driver. I don't care about the driver. Cable car came to take the bridal party to the church. Cable car didn't start.
Well, cable car
didn't start, did not make the journey from where they picked up the party to the church. Mr. Lightman, that would either be a yes or a no. The cable car did not make the trip from where it was supposed to pick up the bridal party to take them to the church due to mechanical failure.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Very good. There's no question. I don't have to get into what they had to do. They had to get Uber cars to take them. People drove their own cars, whatever it was. Now we're at the church.
That's correct.
Mr.
Your Honor.
Lightman.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're at the church. And the cable car was or was not at the church.
The cable car
Just say was or was not at the church.
was not.
Was not. Was the cable car supposed to be at the church? Yeah, it's either a yes or a no.
Yes, Your Honor.
It was at the church.
No, it was supposed to be at the church.
It was supposed to be at the church. Was it at the church?
It was broken down in front of the hotel.
The answer is either a yes or a no.
It's no, Your Honor.
Was not at the church. So now it wasn't at the place that they were supposed to take the bridal party to the church, and it was not at the church. From the church, where was the cable car supposed to take the bridal party?
It was supposed to take us around San Francisco to different locations with the photographer to get kind of classic San Francisco wedding photos.
And from what time to what time was that supposed to happen?
From after the ceremony, so like 3-ish till 5 when it brought us back to the reception.
Okay, so the reception started at 5.
It started at 3:30, but the bridal party was going to be late because of pictures.
And you were supposed to have that until 5 p.m. Contractually. Did the cable car appear to take you for your tour around San Francisco and take photographs?
No, it didn't.
Mr. Boyle? Yes. Give me a ballpark figure of how much you spent on this wedding.
Can I say too much?
And later today,
So what was this baloney that you wrote here in your answer that you took an apartment that she was supposed to move in with you?
That's now.
Oh, that's now.
Yes, ma'am.
Caitlin McBride and her father, Jerry Boyle, claim business owner Benjamin Lightman owes for rental costs of a cable car after it broke down on Caitlin's wedding day.
Okay. Did it take you from the church around San Francisco to take photographs of the wedding party in certain San Francisco landmarks with you in your dress?
No, it didn't.
And how long did it take you to get the dress fitted and picked out?
1.5 years, 2 years.
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Give me a ballpark figure of how much you spent on this wedding.
Can I say too much?
Did you spend 6 figures on this
Yes,
wedding?
we did. I'm still drinking light beer because of it.
I figured it sounds like a 6-figure plus wedding. You see, your bus broke down.
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't speak. What I don't understand is, from the perspective of a business person who told me the name of your company, right?
Yes.
In San Francisco, and you're still in business, right?
Well, I've been closed due to COVID for quite a while, but we're still in business, yes, Your
But you're still in business, and you hopefully plan that one day when this pandemic is over, that you're going to go back into business.
To borrow $1 million from the government and make a go at it, yes.
Yes, well, how much money did you get so far from the government?
Very little.
How much money did you get so far from the government?
$25,204, which I used to pay employees and rent, not myself.
Maybe. This is what I don't understand. Mr. Boyle spent 6 figures. I didn't ask him what figure, but spent 6 figures on this wedding that his daughter had been planning since she's 12 years old, a wedding of her dreams, which included a cable car.
Yes, Your Honor.
The entire. I didn't ask you a question. They asked you for a refund because they didn't get the entire service that they don't speak, just listen. And then you tell me whether you think you made a wise business decision. They didn't get the full service or the vast majority of the service that they bargained for. And Mr. Boyle wants his $1,700 back. That's a spit in the bucket to what he spent on this wedding. So for him, I'm telling you, is a matter of principle, because they had to go through the effort of filing papers or whatever. And then, how many times did you continue this case since 2019 in small claims court? I want you to be very careful. Maybe you don't remember. Was it more than 5 or less than 5?
I don't recall, Your Honor.
How many times did he continue this case in small claims court?
Well, he continued it 4 times, but due to other circumstances, they continued the case. He tried to appear by Zoom and didn't fill out the proper paperwork, and so that got continued, but it wasn't an official.
That was in addition to the 4 times that he just said, I want a continuance.
Yes.
And now they say, I want a refund, because they didn't get what they bargained for. You have a company. Hopefully, 5-6 million people are going to watch this program. They know the name of your company. They know where it is. They didn't provide the service. And they said, we'll give you a credit.
With all due respect,
just a
Your Honor,
second.
if I may, Your Honor, if I may, no.
We'll give you a credit.
No.
Oh,
okay,
that's
enough of your railroading, Your Honor.
That's exactly what you said in your answer.
Enough of your railroading.
That's exactly what you said in your answer. We told them we would give them a credit.
That was in the terms and conditions of the contract that they
4 hours
signed.
of service on a
If Mr. Boyle
Saturday
had wanted to negotiate, he should have negotiated prior to the signing of the contract.
$1,700. Judgment for the
we
plaintiff.
Don't give
We're
a full
done.
refund.
Court is adjourned.
The offer we made was reasonable, in line with other transportation operators in San Francisco.
The groom almost missed the wedding.
That's the industry. It's a tough industry.
He was just playing games for the last 2 years.
A cable car. That's different. I hadn't thought of that, but I'll need to bookmark it just for future reference, just in case.
It was a
cute idea.
It's an adorable idea. And one thing I never understand with some business people, especially if there's really no issue, why do you want to expose your company to any sort of litigation and then continue a case so that you're really just wearing out the plaintiff when the amount was minuscule compared to the reputation of your company? People go on the internet and they check the number of stars that a company has. Why would you want to risk that for $1,700?
I agree.
Absolutely ridiculous. Bad judgment.
Abdullah versus Stone.
Thank you, Kevin. Ms. Abdullah, it is your claim that the defendant owes the balance of a bill to you for life coaching.
Health coaching and meal planning.
And in addition to the balance that she owes you for 6 weeks worth of classes or mentoring, you allege that she defamed you on the internet. The defendant says that you did practically nothing for her, for which she paid you $400 of a $600 bill, and she has a counterclaim. And the counterclaim is for invasion of her privacy and defamation. She says that you posted things on the internet, pictures of her that were private pictures that she sent to you as part of your health program.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you meet each other?
We met at a spiritual event in September of 2019. She came to another event that I was speaking at in November of 2019.
So you were a speaker?
In the November event, yes, ma'am.
That's not completely accurate, Your Honor.
Do you recall the circumstances of your meeting?
Larisha and I were initiated into a spiritual group together, otherwise known as an ELAY. We shared the same spiritual godmother.
Okay. And it was a spiritual group?
Yes, ma'am.
How much after you met Ms. Stone did you and Ms. Abdullah become involved in this health coaching?
When we met in September of 2019, Nefertiti was overweight. She was walking with a cane, and she had a host of health issues. So for the span of time that I knew her, from September 2019 to around November of 2019, when I hired her as a health coach, I watched her get her weight under control, stop walking with her cane, and she was healthy. She got her health.
That's a lie. I never had a cane. I never had a cane.
If you interrupt again, I'm just going to dismiss your case.
I'm sorry, Your Honor.
That's it.
Okay.
Ma'am, I don't know why she's telling you.
Just a second. I'm listening to you.
Yes,
She's
ma'am.
not going to interrupt again.
Okay.
Okay, so you saw that she, for some reason, got herself in shape.
Yes, she got herself in shape. I was inspired. And prior to hiring her as my health coach, she asked me to start a health coaching business with her. So we started a business together.
Explain that to me. First of all, did you have any particular education or expertise in being a health coach for anybody?
No,
You
ma'am.
personally?
No, ma'am. Not me personally, no.
Okay. And prior to September of 2019, Ms. Abdullah, did you have any training or education in the health field?
Yes, ma'am.
Where?
I've been a doctor of clinical pharmacy for 16 years. I got my degree. Sorry.
You're a doctor of
clinical pharmacy, and I also
now,
have
what's a doctor of clinical pharmacy?
A PharmD. I'm a clinical pharmacist. I do medication therapy reviews with senior citizens in the state of Florida. I also work with diabetic patients. I'm a diabetic educator.
Okay. And where did you get your degree from?
The University of Florida.
When?
In 2005, April 2005.
Are you licensed anywhere?
Absolutely. I'm licensed
Where?
in the state of Florida and the state of Kentucky.
As what?
As a clinical
as a pharmacist.
As a registered pharmacist in the state of Kentucky, and as a registered pharmacist and a consultant pharmacist in the state of Florida.
And both licenses are current?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you had zero training?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So what were you going to contribute to this business?
Nefertiti encouraged me to get my life coaching certificate, which I started to do online. I was supposed to do the spiritual side of the coaching, and she was going to do the health side of the coaching. When we fell out in December of 2020, she was my health coach prior to that, but when we fell out, she went on a...
No.
Okay.
No, you're getting ahead of yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
At some point, you acknowledge that you hired her for $600 to be your health coach.
Yes.
In what month and year did you do that?
In November of 2020, I hired her to be my health coach.
Okay. And at that time, what were your issues?
I had pre-diabetes symptoms. My toes were tingling for months. And I had told her, I don't know why my toes are tingling. I don't know what's going on. About maybe 2 months after my toes started tingling, I went to squeeze my toe because it was in pain, and pus oozed out of my toe. So I was having pre-diabetes symptoms. I was very afraid. So I changed my diet, got my food under control, stopped consuming so much sugar, and my pre-diabetes symptoms went away. My toe stopped tingling. And
that was before you hired her?
Before I hired her, right. So I hired her because I still wanted to get my weight under control. I have 2 children. After the 2 of them were born, I just continued to gain weight, and the hormonal changes, I just was having a hard time getting it down. So that's why I hired her to help me lose the weight.
Okay, and it was a business arrangement. You both acknowledge it was for $600.
Yes.
And the only discrepancy is that you say you paid her $400 of the $600.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do you have proof that she says you only paid 2? Did she pay 2 or 4?
She paid $150 and we bartered $50. We bartered $50. Larisha's contribution to me is she would do like flyers for me because she was good at that.
Okay, so what you're saying is she in effect gave you $200.
Right, and I have the proof here. She said that she was going to cash at me the balance due in full on January 9th.
I'd like to see it. Did she say $400?
Yes, she asked me how much. She said, how much I owe you, and then I told her, and she said, okay.
Okay.
And then I also have...
Okay, on the 24th of December, Ms. Stone, she wrote to you, you owed $400 total less, and you wrote back okay.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. I agreed to pay Nefertiti the $400.
Okay, so you agreed to give her $400.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
That was in December.
Yes.
Okay, did you give it to her?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Why not?
She breached our agreement. She stated in her intake paperwork that all of my information would remain confidential between us, that she would share anything past our health coaching. She published pictures of me to the internet. I would like to submit.
Just a second.
Yes.
On what date?
I don't have the date because I screenshot these in hand.
Well, it's useless to me. On December 24th of 2020, you said okay to her statement that you owe $400. You said okay. If there are things that you posted afterwards, I'm going to hear it as part of your counterclaim. But so far, you haven't told me why you didn't pay her.
Okay. After I agreed to pay her the money, I told her that I would pay her on January 9th. And she remembers that I told her that I would pay her on January 9th. Between December 24th and January 9th, she had released personal information. She broke the agreement that we had in my intake paperwork. She published information that she gathered on my intake paperwork to her social media pages.
Okay. Miss Abdullah, the reason she is giving now, which is different from the reason that you gave in your answer, the reason that you gave in your answer for not paying her was that she didn't do anything. I'm just telling you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the reason that you gave in your answer. The last 2 weeks of the program, she provided no coaching at all. I got one email during week 5 where everything was a repeat of the previous week. In week 6, there was no contact related to health coaching at all. I felt ripped off. That's what you say in your answer. Your answer has nothing to do with breaching the agreement because she posted personal information, Ms. Stone. The reason you gave in your answer was that she didn't provide the service.
Both are true, ma'am.
Well, the one that you gave in your answer was that she didn't provide the service. Okay, so now you're telling me that the reason that you didn't finish paying her, despite the fact that you said you were going to pay her, is because she breached the agreement. May I see a copy of the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Miss Abdullah, the last line that Ms. Stone is referring to says that the information she's providing in this intake form, which I assume she did, it talks about her health information, about her stressors, what her hope is for the program. That
Am I allowed to see that, to see if it's really my intake form?
Absolutely.
Please. This form has been redone. Well, I don't have a wellness balance logo on my form, as well as
show me your
font.
intake. Show me your intake form.
I don't have my form.
Well,
and this is not my form.
It may be when you say
and it's not signed.
Well, it doesn't have to be signed. It doesn't have to be signed by the client. What she has highlighted there, and which would seem to be normal course of business, is any information that is furnished. Pay attention, Ms. Abdullah.
Yes, ma'am.
That any information. No, I don't believe that. You may have updated it, but what it says at the bottom, since you can't produce any other documentation, is very clear and it's very professional. And it says that the information that a prospective client fills out will only be shared for statistical purposes and will not be published for any other reason, will not be used for any other reason. What Ms. Stone says is, and I don't give, quite frankly, a rat's behind whether or not it was done between December 24th and January 9th. She says that someplace you published information about her on the internet that you gleaned while you were involved in coaching her in health wellness coaching. And that is, if it's true, and I haven't seen anything yet, is most unprofessional. Posting this photograph with the caption, Larissa Stone still owes me $400. I helped her lose at least one of those chins. Did you write that?
Later.
It's a lot of baloney. I've been in this business a long time. I know baloney. I know when it's raining outside or someone is peeing on my leg. Unfortunately, the government doesn't seem to have that sense.
Nefertiti Abdullah says her former friend, Larissa Stone, owes for the balance of health coaching services. Larissa is countersuing for breach of contract and invasion of privacy.
Okay, I'd like to see what you're alleging. Maybe it's nothing.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So the first thing I have is a photo that she shared of me. That she asked me to.
Shh, just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have to tell you that posting this photograph of Miss Stone, if you did it, with the caption, Larissa Stone of the 9 Mines still owes me $400. I'm taking her to small claims court in North Carolina. Someone let her know I helped her lose at least one of those chins. Did you write that?
I did after this was posted about me.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at it, please.
There you go. And she can read that as well.
You're giving me a whole...
She posted a lot, along with a lot of other women in a group about me.
The These are conversations. That's a whole different ball of wax. Would you give this back to her, please? This, I have to tell you, this is unprofessional. And if you're dealing with somebody that you think is not wrapped tight, that's not what you do as a professional lady who's licensed in 2 different states. Just unprofessional. Not actionable, but unprofessional. You owe her $400. Judgment for the plaintiff. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you.
Court is adjourned.
Nefertiti got what she wanted, and I got what I wanted. Hopefully, I can be done with her for the rest of my life.
I am happy with the outcome.
The spiritual community is just like any other. We have issues just like everybody else.
That's how we ended up here today, is me speaking vocally about the con game that was going on in that community.
Everyone has moved on except for Nefertiti, so I'm just happy to move on as well.
I've gone my separate way despite what Ms. Stone has presented. I just wanted to come back and get what was mine, which was my money.
I just think it was actually pretty despicable that a professional of any kind, let alone a doctor, would post those sorts of photos that a client gave them in confidence, trying to better themselves, trying to lose weight, do better for her kids, like the defendant was explaining. I can't imagine that. And like you said, it's wrong, but is it actionable?
I don't think it's actionable. I think that they got into, because of the money owed, they got into a cat fight. Clearly from the text messages she was owed, and the defendant acknowledged that she owed her $400. That I think that it was unprofessional to post anything, I actually do. But this wasn't a strictly professional relationship. These 2 women knew too much about each other. So, unfortunate.
Hello, Judge. Case 1085, Baseman versus Ash Robinson.
Ms. Baseman, your last name is?
Ash.
Mr. Ash is a former boyfriend of yours.
Correct.
Ms. Robinson was his fiancée, then his ex-fiancée when he moved in with you, and is currently his current fiancée.
We got married 2 days ago, so we're
Well,
husband and wife.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I don't know what the cause of action that you have is against Ms. Robinson.
Because she put a stop to me contacting Mr. Ash to get my property back.
Just a second. She had an order preventing you from contacting him or her?
No, neither. She had written in text message that if I contact him or her family at all, she will take legal action.
Your case is dismissed against her.
Okay.
Have a seat. I couldn't figure out what your cause of action against her was because you don't have one. Mr. Ash, you and your now wife were engaged and living together when?
For 8 years. We were together. We got engaged. Then we had a falling apart for roughly 8 months. I was even misplaced from my house because of
Okay, it was your house.
Yes.
So your current wife had a restraining order against you.
Yes, ma'am.
And the restraining order put you out of your home.
Yes.
And while you were put out of your home, you reconnected with the plaintiff.
Yes, ma'am.
Who you had known in the past.
Yes, ma'am.
And asked her if you could move in. She did let you move in. You stayed for a while and then developed a romantic relationship with each other. You hired a lawyer in order to get back into your house.
No, ma'am.
How did you get back into your house?
I had gotten legal advice of how to file the proper paperwork so I could represent myself.
Who did you get the advice from?
Chris, sitting next to her.
Plaintiff's witness.
Correct.
Did you get the advice from her because that's her profession? She is a paralegal of some sort?
No, ma'am.
Was the advice free?
No.
What did she charge you for it?
For the first initial to get back in my house, $250.
And in what month was that?
November of last year.
And then you had someone else file for a protective order against you.
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that?
Ex-girlfriend times 2 before Miss Robinson.
You are the unluckiest guy I know, Mr. Ash.
Yes, ma'am.
And did again you use the plaintiff's witness to help you with that situation?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was her fee for that?
$1,200.
And all of this transpired while you were living with the plaintiff?
No, ma'am. The $250 happened while I was staying in Duluth, Minnesota with
the
Ms.
plaintiff.
Baseman. The $1,200, I was back in my house at that time.
Were you back in your house and still connected to Miss Baseman?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you were still together with her?
Yes, ma'am.
And where did you get the $1,450 from? Did Miss Baseman give you that money?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I want you to tell, because that's part of what she's suing you for.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me the circumstances surrounding her giving you that money.
She thought that me being legally bound by these people, that I shouldn't have to go through this, that she was going to help me get through this with paying for legal advice.
And what were you doing at the time?
Not working, ma'am.
How were you supporting yourself?
I am currently still unemployed.
How are you supporting yourself?
The basic system.
Well, tell me exactly what that is. I'd like to know what the basic system is for you. We've been here doing this for a couple of months. We've had so many stories about the basic system. I want to know what your basic system is.
I receive MFIB from the state of Minnesota.
What is that?
Parent and child. They give you so much cash, food support, medical. I also receive child support for my son.
Okay, so you have one child. When you lived with Miss Baseman, did you take your son with you?
No, ma'am.
Where did he stay?
Same town, across town with his aunt.
Were you still getting money for him when he was living with his aunt?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
$300 a month.
And how much were you getting personally for yourself?
In child support, none. I don't receive any.
Not child support. I'm talking about any other. You're not supporting yourself on $300 a month, sir.
No.
So what other monies do you get? From any source?
Oh, MFIB.
Well, tell me how much you get.
MFIB varies from 150, maybe 250, depending on how much child support came in that month.
150 or 250 a what? A week, a month?
Month.
A month. When was the last time you were employed?
5 years ago.
What kind of work did you do 5 years ago?
I was a courier driver.
And what stopped that?
Too many accidents, workman comp cases, and eventually my employer got tired and said, we're 2 open cases, and dismissed me.
And that was 5 years ago?
Yes.
Well, how have you been supporting yourself for the last 5 years? I'm not going to ask you, I'm going to ask the plaintiff. How does he support himself? He has his own home because it was his home that he was put out of. So I assume you own that home.
No, ma'am.
No. You rent it?
Yes.
How much is your rent?
Subsidized renting, $60 a month.
Describe the house for me.
It is a 2-bedroom townhome.
2-bedroom, 2-bath?
2-bedroom, 1-bath.
For which you pay $60 a month.
Yes, ma'am.
Have you applied for any other type of federal assistance?
I've been attempting to try to get Social Security, which has been just a dead end.
Because they ask you what your disability is. You ultimately found out that they were back together again, or at least you had a suspicion, and owing to the fact that they got married 2 days ago, I would suggest to you that your intuitions were very good.
Annalisa Baseman claims her ex-boyfriend, Michael Ash, is responsible for unpaid loans and returning her belongings.
Okay, Mr. Ash says part of your lawsuit is for this $1,450 that you paid to your witness. There's no issue that you paid that money to the witness because he says that you paid that money to the witness and you received it from her.
Yes, I did.
When did you pay her the money for his 2 domestic violence cases?
It was January 11th, and then the rest was paid.
2021?
Yes, and then the rest was paid to you in April.
Now, you had moved a lot of your stuff, according to your complaint, after he stayed with you for a while, and he was successful in regaining his house. She got out of his townhome. You took an apartment for you to have together.
No, ma'am. I have my own house that I pay for on a monthly basis. Okay, he came and stayed with me.
Well, that I understand.
For 2 weeks. Then we went back to his townhome where we were spending the weekends.
Spending just the weekends?
Just the
but
weekends.
He was staying there?
Yes,
he was staying there. You came and just spent weekends?
Yes.
Well, was that between January and April of 2021?
Yes. And it continued on up until June.
What happened in June?
June 5th was when it started to, the relationship started to fall apart. And at that point, I had
What gave you a clue?
The fact that Deanna Dawn Robinson was over there every day, even though she had a harassment order against him.
Just a second. So she was at the townhome.
Yes.
How did you find that out?
He told me one night when we hadn't done very much talking, he said Deanna and I were up drinking till 3 o'clock in the morning.
You mean when you were home in your house?
Yes.
So that gave you your first clue?
Yes.
Okay. What had you brought over to his townhome?
I had brought over makeup, clothing, movies. He lives about 20 minutes from me. He lives in a different city. So I brought over food supplies because I try to do keto, everything.
You understand that this is a very expensive place to run a court system.
Yes.
So we're not interested in the food supplies you brought over, even your makeup that you brought over. Now, you ultimately found out that they were back together again, or at least you had a suspicion, and owing to the fact that they got married 2 days ago, I would suggest to you that your intuitions were very good. Tell me the circumstances surrounding you paying these 2 bills for him.
First of all, Chris would not do any more work for us until she got the $250 from before.
Okay.
She was his legal researcher more than anything.
Okay.
Okay.
He acknowledges that.
Yeah.
The only question is, were you paying this because you were a couple and you were helping him out, or was there a contract between you that this was a loan?
There was a verbal contract.
Well, that's what you're going to tell me, and that's what I'm going to try to figure out. His explanation so far, whether I like it or not, is plausible. That you were in a relationship with each other, there was another woman involved, you wanted him to be free from any of those stressors from this other woman and from 2 previous to her who also had some sort of case against him. You don't look like that kind of guy, Mr. Ash, but looks can be deceptive. And that you, as part of a couple, paid this bill for him. You're going to tell me that there was a loan with an expectation of being repaid. So let me have it.
There was a loan.
Well, that's a conclusion.
Yes.
I want you to tell me the circumstances surrounding you paying Chris.
I paid Chris because he was in such a state of worrying and mental anguish over the different people who had harassment orders against him. He didn't know what to do. He was beside himself. So therefore, I paid her the $250 with the acknowledgement that after...
Not acknowledgement. So you were concerned about him, you paid the $250. I'm still waiting.
Well, the thing is, if anything, why would I pay her the $1,200 after she was done with the cases?
I have to ask you this question. You paid her the $250.
Yes.
He never paid you a penny towards the $250.
You are correct.
Right. And so after he never paid you a penny from the $250, because he's somebody that lives in a townhouse for which he pays $60 a month, who doesn't work.
Who was going to get a job through his friend, making $35 an hour.
Right. He hadn't worked in 5 years. So based on history, both his history of not working for 5 years and your history with him together, for the months that you lived together, he never worked.
I was never aware that he never worked. He had told me that he owned his own auto shop and that he was working every day. M&M Automotive, which is owned by he and his father.
M&M Automotive. Where is it located?
It's located in Esko, Minnesota. ESKO.
While she's looking for it, Mr. Ash, does your father own a mechanic shop?
No.
Did you?
Once upon a time.
When?
I haven't, that business has not been open in 6 years. There was an attempt to make the business come open, then COVID-19 hit and it never reopened.
19 didn't hit this country until January of 2020.
I was going to attempt to actually open it up, never happened.
Well, where were you going to open it?
On my father's property where it was originally located.
Okay, now I got it. When you say you were going to try to open it again, Mr. Ash, the property still exists.
Yes, ma'am.
The shop still exists.
Yes, ma'am. It's in my father's name. It's his property.
I don't care in whose name the property exists. Where are your siblings?
My sister lives in Texas.
So you're the only one who lives in this area.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. So what did you have to have clean record for?
So I have good credit.
For what? If she was purchasing a trailer?
We were going to purchase it together.
How are you going to purchase it together? He had no money.
Annalisa Baseman has accused her ex-boyfriend, Michael Ash, of refusing to pay back loans. She is also suing for the return of her belongings.
Okay. The only other thing that you have, other than this $14.50, if you can't find it.
Yeah, it's a little sketchy on the internet.
It'll come up on Google Maps.
I have an address, but no owner.
No owner, but you have an address. What does it say, Sarah, as far as what it does?
Automotive and restorations.
But it does list it as a current business?
That I can't
tell you.
There hasn't been anything recent posted from what I can tell. The last post I see was October 20th of 2018.
And what kind of post was that?
On their Facebook page.
There's a review on Google for them.
Oh, really?
And there's a phone number listed as well.
Really? Yes, ma'am. Would you stand up?
Whether or not it's an official business, Your Honor, is not the point. Because it is a de facto business.
Sit down.
There's a review on...
Sit.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
There's a current phone number?
Listed on the Facebook page as well as, I believe, the Yelp page.
Really? Interesting.
Would you like it?
No, I don't need it, actually. Is this total public housing where you're living?
Yes.
So the last time you had a job, according to you, was 5 years ago, working as a driver. You had too many accidents.
Yes, ma'am.
But the last time, at least, there's a current phone number for this mechanic's shop that belongs to your father, who's allegedly not there, I assume.
He lives on the property.
But that's a current phone number for the shop.
No, ma'am. That number is disconnected.
As of when?
A year and a half,
What happened a year and a half ago?
when that number went offline.
What happened a year and a half ago?
That's when everything was totally gave up on.
What property of hers do you still have at your house?
Her patio set, which is on the outside.
Okay. You want that back?
Yes, please.
Okay, you can go pick it up within 5 days.
Okay.
What else? You mentioned the patio set. He mentioned the patio set. What else is there?
There is a lot of DVDs that I own. There are 4 special books her fiance gave to me that were handwritten in, that he created, that Mr. Ash has, because I was reading them over at his house. Also, too,
Just a second. Mr. Ash, do you know what 4 books she's talking about?
Yes, ma'am. The 4 that she left behind because she had wanted nothing to do with Chris and her fiance.
I don't care. You know which 4 books she's talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
She's going to pick those up at the patio set. What else?
Also, he has the original paperwork on my second house.
Where did you leave it?
It was in his truck.
Have you looked in your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have the paperwork?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so she's going to pick up the paperwork, the 4 books, and the patio furniture within 5 days. You can take a marshal if you believe you need it, or send
I will
somebody.
have to, because he called the police on me the last time when I was over there.
Okay, so we'll give you an order, and you can take it with a police officer for a standby and pick up your property.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, he's not giving you back the $250 because I heard nothing about a loan. Now we're going to hear about the $1,200, which came later. Let me hear about the $1,200, which came after he didn't pay you anything for the $250.
The $1,200 was supposed to be a loan because we were moving into a new place together. And with that fact being said, I had paid off his bad debts in order to raise
Which bad debt? I thought it was for her.
No.
What?
No.
What did you pay off of his?
I paid off 2 different things, and I do have the evidence here that I'm looking them up, Your Honor. One is a check. For IC Systems, I paid off $1,124.90.
What is that? What is that?
It's an old debt that he has.
What is that?
It's a collection company that's being reported on my credit report.
So it's probably been there for a long time.
Yes, ma'am.
So what's the reason that you wanted that cleared?
I did not want it cleared. She insisted that I have a clean record to be moving into this new house with her.
To a new house?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's what I thought. I thought I read something about a new place. What new place were you moving into?
She was purchasing a trailer home in the far side of Duluth.
So what did you have to have clean record for?
So I have good credit.
For what, if she was purchasing a trailer?
We were going to purchase it together.
How were you going to purchase it together? He had no money.
Because we were planning on getting married about a month after that.
He still has no money. Now he's married and unemployed.
And he also had to get on the lot rent, so we needed to pay off his bad debt for the lot rent for him to live there.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry, madam. Sometimes love makes people blind. You don't seem like you're an unintelligent woman. You're going to get back your furniture. You want to pay off this loser's bad debt? That's your problem.
I understand.
That's your problem. You had no expectation of being repaid. He didn't pay you back the $250, and he's not paying you back the $1,200. And if somebody wants to look into why he's not working at his father's mechanic shop, they certainly should. So now you're both living in a $60 a month townhouse, the two of you together. Good. Good luck to you. Good luck to you both. We're
Court is
finished.
adjourned.
We are done.
I thought it was a very fair decision.
Mike Ash had given me the impression that he was working for many years.
She's not happy that I got back together with my first love of my life.
I didn't know that he and Deanna Robinson were together for so long.
She just wouldn't let good enough be and move on.
Don't be so naive to other people.
Heart wants what heart wants.
I'm willing to move on with my life.
You know, I don't know how many years I've been saying it. If you're in love or think you're in love and you give your partner money, it's a gift. If you want to make it alone to anybody, your brother, your sister, your child, your parent, certainly a transient boyfriend, put it in writing. It may not be sexy, but neither is this. So if you want to be foolish enough to give a boyfriend money and you want it to be alone in case it falls apart, get a note.
Agreed.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.